Hello, my friend. Tonight we're going to pull back the papyrus curtain and step into the sun-drenched world of ancient Egypt. Imagine yourself standing on the banks of the mighty Nile, the lifeblood of this incredible civilization, feeling the warm breeze against your skin, laden with the scent of lotus blossoms and fertile soil. Around you, life hums with a vibrant energy. Artisans carve intricate reliefs. Farmers tend their fields, and the sounds of daily rituals drift from nearby temples. It's a world brimming with innovation and mystique, where gods walked among mortals. And death was just another journey. You might think, from the comfort of your modern life, that everything was so simple back then. But trust me, my friend, some things never change. And you probably won't survive this journey into the intimate details of ancient life without a few raised eyebrows. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And do let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself living in a mud brick home, perhaps in a bustling town like Memphis or Thebes, or maybe a quieter village nestled along the river. The days are hot, the nights cool. Your life as an ancient Egyptian woman is intricately woven into the rhythms of the Nile and the customs of your society. You wake with the sun, perhaps grinding grain for bread, weaving linen, or preparing food for your family. The air is often dusty, and the constant presence of the river means a certain level of humidity. Life is physical, demanding, but also deeply communal. You live surrounded by family, by neighbors, all part of a tightly knit social fabric. One mainstream historical fact about ancient Egyptian women is that they enjoyed a remarkably high status compared to women in many other ancient societies. They could own property, inherit wealth, initiate divorces, and even pursue various professions. They weren't confined solely to domestic roles. You might see women selling goods in the market, working as priestesses, or even as scribes, though that was rarer. This social standing meant their experiences, including those related to their bodies, were likely approached with a degree of pragmatism and openness not seen everywhere else. Consider the intriguing notion that despite this relative equality, public records and art often focused on male activities, leaving much of daily female life to be inferred from a few key sources, like medical papyri or tomb paintings. This means that while we know a good deal, there's always a tantalizing gap in our knowledge. How accurately these historical records reflect the full spectrum of women's daily experiences, particularly the more private aspects like menstruation, continues to be a subject of careful, scholarly interpretation. It's like trying to understand an entire meal from just a few crumbs left on the plate. As you go about your day, you notice the other women around you, your mother, your aunts, your older sisters. They move with a quiet understanding, a shared knowledge of the female body's cycles. There's an unspoken language among them, a subtle nod or a knowing glance that communicates more than words ever could. You are part of this lineage, this continuous flow of life along the Nile, and soon enough, your own body will join this ancient rhythm. The sun continues its journey across the sky, casting long shadows, and you prepare for the changes that every woman must face. One morning, as you begin your chores, a new sensation stirs within you. It's a subtle ache, an unfamiliar warmth, a dull heaviness that settles low in your belly. Then, as you move, you notice it. A faint stain on your linen undergarment. Your breath catches. This is it. This is the moment your mother and the older women have spoken of in hushed tones, with knowing glances. This is the onset of your first menstruation. You are no longer just a girl. Your body is beginning its transformation, aligning itself with the ancient rhythms of womanhood, the very cycles that reflect the rise and fall of the Nile itself. A nervous thrill mixes with a strange sense of quiet awe. You quickly learn the unspoken rules. There's a certain way to move, to sit, to manage this new reality discreetly. Your mother or an older female relative guides you gently, not with embarrassment, but with a quiet understanding passed down through generations. They show you how to prepare the necessary materials, how to wash, how to keep yourself clean and comfortable. This isn't a topic for open discussion with men or boys. It's a private, intimate knowledge shared among women, a bond that connects you to every female who has ever lived along the fertile banks of this great river. A widely accepted historical fact is that in ancient societies, the onset of menstruation marked a significant rite of passage for girls, signifying their entry into womanhood and their potential for fertility. While Egyptian society was relatively progressive for its time regarding women's rights, the biological realities of menstruation were still understood within a cultural context that emphasized purity and the importance of healthy reproduction. This moment fundamentally alters your social perception, however subtly. In some ancient cultures, there were elaborate public ceremonies to mark a girl's first menstruation, sometimes involving specific garments or rituals. However, for ancient Egypt, the archaeological and textual evidence is less clear on widespread public celebrations for this particular event. This suggests a more private, familial handling of the transition, though its significance was no less profound. The extent to which first menstruation was a universally acknowledged public or purely private event across different social strata in ancient Egypt remains a subtle point of academic discussion, given the varied and sometimes incomplete nature of available evidence. It's a fascinating void in our understanding of daily life. You observe how the older women move through their cycles with an almost practiced nonchalance, a quiet acceptance. They carry on with their daily tasks, weaving, cooking, caring for children, adapting their routines as needed. There's no sense of shame, but rather a pragmatic approach to a natural bodily function. You begin to understand that this is simply part of being a woman, a sign of your connection to the life-giving force that flows through all things. Much like the Nile itself, your body, with its new, mysterious rhythm, has just joined a lineage that stretches back to the very dawn of Egyptian civilization. With the reality of your first flow now a part of your daily existence, the immediate concern shifts to practicalities. You need something to absorb the flow, something discreet and effective in the warm Egyptian climate. Unlike modern solutions, you won't find pre-packaged pads or tampons in ancient Egypt. Instead, you turn to the resources readily available to you, primarily linen. This isn't just any linen. It's often softer, older cloth, perhaps pieces of discarded garments, or finely woven scraps. You learn to fold it, layer it, and secure it in a way that provides absorption and comfort, tucked within your loincloth or wrapped round your body. The process is hands-on and requires frequent changing. You become adept at discreetly managing these necessities, finding quiet moments to attend to yourself. Washing the soiled linen is a regular chore, requiring access to water from the Nile or a well, and the relentless Egyptian sun becomes your natural dryer. There's a subtle pride in this self-sufficiency, a quiet understanding of the ingenuity required to navigate the natural processes of your body within the constraints of your environment. You learn from your mother and other women, observing their techniques, mastering the quiet art of managing your flow. It's a well-established historical fact that ancient Egyptians widely used linen for clothing, bandages, and various household purposes, making it the most logical and accessible material for menstrual hygiene. The Nile Delta provided abundant flax, the plant from which linen is made, ensuring a consistent supply. This pervasive use of linen underscores its versatility and critical role in daily life, extending even to intimate personal care in some informal historical accounts. There are suggestions that women might have also used softer plant fibers, like papyrus fibers or even softened river reeds, as alternatives or supplements to linen, depending on their availability and personal comfort. It's a testament to the resourcefulness required for daily living in ancient times. The extent to which different materials were commonly used across various social classes and regions, or if linen was overwhelmingly the preferred choice, remains an ongoing point of scholarly discussion. Given the limited archaeological evidence specifically related to menstrual products, it's hard to find a 4,000-year-old pad, you know. You discover that finding moments of privacy for changes can be a minor challenge in a communal household. Perhaps you slip away to the quieter corners of your home, or utilize the cool, shaded relief of an outdoor latrine. You adapt, becoming more aware of your body's signals and the rhythms of your household. This intimate, continuous interaction with natural materials, far from being a burden, fosters a deeper connection to the pragmatic wisdom passed down through generations of women. You are learning a skill as fundamental to your life as grinding grain or fetching water, a quiet mastery of your own body's needs. Your practical approach to managing your cycle is echoed in the very wisdom recorded by ancient Egyptian physicians. You might hear elders speak of medical papyri, remarkable scrolls filled with knowledge passed down through generations. These aren't just dry medical texts. They are fascinating windows into how the Egyptians viewed the human body, illness, and, crucially for you, women's health. Imagine scribes meticulously writing down observations and remedies, perhaps using black and reed inks on rolls of papyrus, often illustrated with hieroglyphs that seem to dance across the page. These texts are like ancient instruction manuals, offering glimpses into how your ancestors understood the very processes your body now experiences. One such scroll, the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus, dating back to around 1800 BCE, is a cornerstone of our understanding. It doesn't shy away from discussing menstruation, fertility, and even methods for contraception. This mainstream historical fact shows a remarkably open and pragmatic approach to female bodily functions, rather than one shrouded in shame or fear. The texts list various conditions, from menstrual difficulties to issues with conception, and then offer detailed remedies, often involving herbal concoctions or specific ritual practices. It suggests that women's health was a recognized and important field of study within ancient Egyptian medicine, not something to be ignored or dismissed. While these papyri offer incredible detail, they rarely provide a full picture of the lived experience. For instance, the exact purpose and interpretation of some of the more esoteric remedies or diagnostic methods, like observing the urine of a woman who has consumed a certain substance to determine pregnancy, can be a bit baffling. What was the underlying medical theory behind these specific practices, and how effective were they in practice? the precise efficacy and theoretical underpinnings of some of the ancient Egyptian gynecological remedies, and whether they were primarily empirical observations or influenced by magical beliefs, remains a subject of ongoing scholarly debate. Among Egyptologists and medical historians, it's like trying to bake a cake from a recipe missing a few crucial steps. You learn that periods were often seen as a natural, albeit sometimes uncomfortable, part of life intrinsically linked to a woman's ability to bear children. The flow itself was considered a cleansing process, a necessary release from the body. You might hear your grandmother speak of it as the monthly purifying, a term that conveys both the physical aspect and a subtle, almost sacred, understanding. The medical texts reinforce this view, treating menstrual issues as legitimate medical conditions requiring intervention rather than moral failings or curses. You feel a sense of validation, a quiet reassurance that what your body is experiencing is normal, even important. The wisdom contained in these ancient scrolls wasn't confined to the elite. Elements of it likely filtered down through generations, taught by mothers to daughters, by midwives to new mothers. You might see your own mother preparing a soothing herbal compress based on knowledge passed down orally, a testament to the enduring practicality of this ancient medical wisdom. It's a continuous thread, connecting you directly to the women who lived along the Nile thousands of years before you, sharing the same bodily rhythms and the same ancient solutions. In the sweltering heat of ancient Egypt, where the sun beats down relentlessly and the air often feels heavy with dust, hygiene isn't just about comfort. It's essential for health and well-being, especially during your menstrual cycle. You learn early on that frequent washing is paramount. The Nile, ever present, becomes your primary source for cleansing. You visit its banks, or perhaps a designated washing area near a well, ensuring you have access to fresh water. This isn't just a quick splash. It's a thorough cleansing, using water and sometimes natron, a natural salt, to purify your body. You understand the importance of keeping your absorbent linen materials clean and dry. After use, they are carefully washed, often by hand, in water, sometimes with a little ash from the cooking fire acting as a rudimentary soap. Then they are laid out under the scorching Egyptian sun to dry. The sun isn't just a convenient dryer. Its intense UV rays act as a natural disinfectant, helping to kill bacteria. This pragmatic approach to hygiene ensures that you remain as comfortable and free from irritation as possible. Even in a time without modern sanitation, it is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptians placed a high value on personal cleanliness, not just for practical reasons, but also for religious and social ones. Daily bathing was common, and elaborate rituals for purification were practiced, especially by priests and priestesses. This emphasis on hygiene naturally extended to managing bodily functions, including menstruation, making regular washing, and the careful handling of materials a fundamental part of a woman's routine. Some ancient texts suggest that women in wealthier households might have used scented oils or perfumes after washing to mask any odors, a subtle luxury to enhance their personal hygiene during their cycle. Imagine, perhaps, dabbing a little lotus oil or fragrant myrrh onto your skin, not just for pleasure, but for practical reasons. The question of how widely these luxurious hygiene practices were adopted across different social classes, and whether they were considered essential or purely supplemental to basic cleanliness, is a fascinating area of scholarly inquiry. It highlights the differences between the lives of the elite and the everyday citizen. You learn to be efficient and discreet in your hygiene practices. While the act of washing might be communal, the specifics of menstrual care remain private. You might carry a small pouch with your clean linen or a simple jar for water, ensuring you are always prepared. This constant attention to cleanliness helps you navigate your cycle with a quiet confidence. In a land where cleanliness was next to godliness, managing your period with diligence wasn't just about personal comfort. It was an integral part of maintaining your place within a society that valued purity. Beyond the practicalities of managing your flow, ancient Egyptian society, like many others, held certain social and religious beliefs surrounding menstruation, often linking it to concepts of purity and impurity. You learn that while not inherently seen as bad or cursed, the blood itself was sometimes considered ritually impure, requiring temporary separation or specific behaviors. This isn't about shame in the modern sense. It's more about maintaining a sacred order, ensuring that individuals were in a ritually clean state for certain activities, particularly those involving religious ceremonies or interaction with the divine. You might be taught that during your period, you should avoid entering temples or participating in certain religious rites. The presence of menstrual blood was believed to diminish the sacredness of holy spaces, making it necessary for women to temporarily withdraw from them. This was a form of respect for the gods and for the sanctity of the ritual, rather than a condemnation of your natural bodily processes. It's a pragmatic approach to ritual purity, recognizing a temporary state that required specific temporary adjustments to daily life. It's a foundational historical fact that concepts of ritual purity and impurity were central to many ancient religions, including that of ancient Egypt. These concepts governed interactions with the divine, preparation for ceremonies, and the conduct of daily life for both men and women. Menstrual impurity, while distinct from other forms of impurity like disease or contact with death, nevertheless necessitated specific protocols to maintain the desired ritual state for the community. Ancient Egyptian texts sometimes mention purification, rituals involving water, natron, or fumigation with incense to restore ritual purity after various bodily emissions or contact with impure substances. Perhaps your mother or an elder priestess would teach you small, personal purification rites to be performed before re-entering certain spaces. The precise extent to which these purity rules were universally applied across all social classes, or whether they varied significantly between urban and rural settings, is a subject of ongoing scholarly discussion. It's difficult to gauge the lived experience of these rules for every single woman in ancient Egypt. You understand that these rules aren't meant to ostracize you, but to protect the sacred. You might see other women, particularly those connected to temples, discreetly adjusting their routines during their cycle, perhaps taking on domestic tasks at home rather than temple duties. There's a shared understanding, an unspoken acceptance of these temporary boundaries. You are still a vital part of your community, still capable and respected, but for a few days each month, your connection to the divine is mediated through different channels, and your presence in sacred spaces is temporarily curtailed. This temporary separation is a testament to the powerful, yet sometimes paradoxical, beliefs surrounding the female body in the ancient world, flowing directly from the concept of ritual purity. You experience a practical application of these beliefs. Temporary seclusion during your menstrual flow. This doesn't mean being locked away in a dark room or treated as an outcast. Instead, it often involves a subtle shift in your daily routine, a temporary withdrawal from specific activities or communal spaces that were considered ritually sensitive. For example, you might avoid preparing certain types of offerings for household gods or you might refrain from entering the family shrine. It's a way of honoring the sacred without completely disrupting your life. In some households, particularly those of priests or scribes, there might be a designated area, perhaps a corner of the home, or a separate small annex, where women would spend a portion of their time during their flow. This space would be easily cleaned and dedicated to activities considered suitable for that temporary state. It's not a punishment. It's a practical measure for maintaining ritual cleanliness. Much like how a craftsman might have a separate area for working with certain materials. You might use this time for quieter tasks, like weaving simple fabrics, preparing non-sacred meals, or caring for younger children away from specific ritual objects. A widely accepted historical understanding is that temporary ritual separation during menstruation was a common practice in many ancient cultures, often connected to beliefs about the power or sacredness of blood. In ancient Egypt, while evidence for widespread, strict segregation is limited, the focus was more on avoiding contamination of sacred spaces or objects, rather than isolating the woman herself due to inherent defilement. This nuanced approach suggests a pragmatic balance between ritual observance and daily life. Some archaeological findings, like certain types of ancient Egyptian bowls or containers, have been theorized to be related to purification rituals or specific hygiene practices, possibly for menstrual use, though their exact function is often hard to definitively prove. It's like finding a mysterious cup in an old house and wondering if it was for tea or for holding paintbrushes. The degree to which strict physical seclusion was implemented for all women, across all social classes, or if it was predominantly a practice for those directly involved in temple service, is a complex area for scholarly analysis due to the varied and often fragmented nature of the surviving evidence. We don't have personal diaries detailing every minute of every period. Sadly, you observe how the older women in your family navigate this temporary shift. They might take on tasks that keep them away from the household shrine, or perhaps defer to another female relative for duties that require a state of complete ritual purity. There's a quiet understanding, a collective respect for these traditional boundaries. It's a rhythmic adjustment, a brief pause in certain activities before resuming the full spectrum of your responsibilities. This temporary seclusion isn't about shame. It's about acknowledging a natural process within a structured spiritual world, a quiet dance between the body and the divine. Despite any temporary ritual separations, your period also held a powerful, sacred dimension, deeply connected to the life-giving forces embodied by the gods themselves. You learn of Isis, the great mother goddess, whose myths are intertwined with life, death, and rebirth. Her story, particularly her role in miraculously conceiving her son Horus, underscores the profound reverence for female reproductive power in ancient Egyptian belief. Your menstrual blood, far from being simply a bodily fluid, was a tangible sign of this divine creative potential, a sacred offering of life itself. You understand that the monthly flow was not a sign of weakness or impurity in a moral sense, but rather a powerful, natural process linked to fertility and the cycle of life. It marked a woman as capable of bearing children, a highly valued role in ancient Egyptian society. The blood was seen as life force, and its regular appearance confirmed a woman's vitality and her connection to the continuous renewal evident in the natural world. From the annual flooding of the Nile to the rising of the sun, it's a pragmatic and spiritual understanding intertwined, a concept far removed from some later, more negative interpretations of menstruation. It is a well-established historical fact that ancient Egyptian religion deeply revered female deities, associated with creation, fertility, and protection, with goddesses like Isis, Hathor, and Mut playing central roles. The female body's ability to create life was thus inherently sacred within this worldview. This cultural context meant that, while certain rituals might necessitate temporary separation due to the concentrated power of menstrual blood, the underlying respect for its life-giving potential remained strong. Ancient Egyptian artwork and texts sometimes subtly allude to the symbolism of red pigments in connection with life, blood, and protection, though rarely directly linking it to menstruation in a pictorial sense. Perhaps you see red ochre used in certain protective amulets, or applied in rituals meant to invoke vitality, drawing an unspoken connection. The exact interpretation of the symbolic meanings of menstrual blood within the broader tapestry of ancient Egyptian religious belief, and whether it was uniformly seen as sacred or also carried negative connotations depending on context, remains a nuanced point of scholarly discussion. It's challenging to fully grasp the spiritual intricacies from a modern perspective. You learn that prayers and offerings might be made to goddesses like Isis during your cycle, not out of fear, but out of reverence and a desire for continued health and fertility. You might offer small votive figures or burn incense, acknowledging the power that flows through you. There's a sense of pride, a quiet dignity in this connection. Your body, in its natural rhythm, becomes a microcosm of the divine cycle of creation and renewal, an enduring testament to the powerful, life-affirming role of women in the eyes of the ancient Egyptians. To further navigate the spiritual and physical aspects of your cycle, you discover the use of amulets and charms. These aren't just pretty trinkets. They're believed to hold protective powers, offering comfort and ease during what can sometimes be a challenging time. You might wear a small, intricately carved scarab beetle, symbolizing rebirth and renewal, tucked into your clothing or as part of a necklace. Or perhaps a small ankh, the hieroglyphic symbol for life, fashioned from fiancure wood, rests against your skin. These aren't just for periods, of course, but their protective qualities are especially sought after during moments of bodily vulnerability or transformation. You learn that certain deities are invoked through these charms, offering spiritual assistance. You might whisper a small prayer to Tauret, the hippopotamus goddess, protector of pregnant women and childbirth, even during your menstrual cycle, as both are part of the larger reproductive journey. Or perhaps to Base, the dwarf god, who, despite his somewhat comical appearance, was fiercely protective of the household, especially women and children. The presence of these small, tangible symbols provides a sense of reassurance, a feeling that divine forces are watching over you, guiding you through the natural processes of your body. It's a well-established historical fact that amulets were incredibly prevalent in ancient Egyptian society, worn by people of all classes for protection, good fortune, and specific purposes related to health and life events. Different shapes and materials were believed to convey different powers, making them integral to both daily life and religious practice. For women, especially regarding fertility and bodily cycles, specific amulets were believed to offer particular benefits. Some ancient texts suggest that certain spells or incantations might have been recited while wearing these amulets, perhaps to enhance their protective qualities during menstruation or to alleviate discomfort. Imagine a quiet murmuring of ancient words, a personal ritual accompanying the donning of a small charm. The precise rituals and personal beliefs associated with individual amulets for menstrual relief, and whether they were universally applied, or varied greatly from person to person, remains a nuanced area of scholarly exploration. It's tough to get into someone's head from so long ago. You feel a quiet comfort from these small, protective objects. They're a bridge between the physical realities of your body and the powerful spiritual beliefs that permeate every aspect of ancient Egyptian life. They remind you that you are not alone in this experience. You are part of a cosmic order, watched over by benevolent deities. As you go about your day, perhaps feeling a familiar ache, your hand might instinctively reach for the smooth surface of your amulet, drawing a quiet strength from its ancient power. Your understanding of menstruation extends far beyond just a monthly occurrence. It is intimately connected to the very core of womanhood in ancient Egypt: fertility. The regular appearance of your period is a clear and powerful sign that your body is capable of conceiving and bearing children, a role highly valued and celebrated in your society. This cyclic shedding of blood is seen as a necessary precursor to new life, a cleansing process that prepares the womb for the possibility of conception. Without this monthly rhythm, the path to motherhood would be closed. You learn that a woman's fertility was not just a personal matter, but a societal one. Children, especially sons, were seen as essential for continuing the family line, caring for elders, and ensuring a peaceful afterlife through ritual offerings. Therefore, the consistent manifestation of your period, though sometimes uncomfortable, carries with it a profound significance. It is a biological affirmation of your potential contribution to the continuation of life, a direct link to the very cycles of creation that define the Egyptian cosmos. The annual flooding of the Nile brings fertile silt, allowing life to flourish. Similarly, your monthly flow signifies the fertility within you. It's a foundational historical fact that ancient Egyptian society placed immense cultural and religious value on fertility and procreation. Marriage was primarily for the purpose of having children, and large families were often desired. The ability to conceive was seen as a blessing, and conversely, infertility could be a source of great distress. This societal emphasis meant that menstruation, as a direct indicator of reproductive capacity, was viewed with a pragmatic understanding of its vital role in the cycle of life. Consider the intriguing belief, sometimes suggested in ancient texts, that certain foods or rituals could influence the regularity or intensity of a woman's menstrual cycle, believed to either enhance or diminish fertility. Perhaps your mother would encourage you to eat certain dates or figs, thought to bolster your reproductive health. The precise extent to which ancient Egyptians believed they could medically or ritually manipulate fertility through understanding menstrual cycles, beyond basic observations, is a fascinating point of scholarly discussion, given the blend of empirical knowledge and magical thinking in their medicine. It's tough to separate superstition from early scientific attempts. You observe how women who become pregnant cease their monthly flow, and this cessation is celebrated as a joyous sign of new life. The return of the period after childbirth is also noted, marking the body's readiness for another potential pregnancy. This constant ebb and flow, this dance between fertility and non-fertility, becomes a deep-seated part of your identity as an Egyptian woman. Your body's monthly rhythm is not just a personal experience. It is a vital, acknowledged part of the community's fabric, a powerful symbol of the enduring promise of life along the Nile. The intimate connection between your monthly flow and the potential for new life leads directly to ancient Egyptian practices for pregnancy tests and omens. If your period is delayed, it's not just a personal concern, it's a significant event, prompting immediate attention and often leading to specific diagnostic methods. These methods, recorded in those same medical papyri, show an astonishing level of ingenuity and observation, even if they seem strange to modern eyes. You learn to perform or participate in these tests, hoping for the desired outcome of conception. One common method involved using grains. A woman would urinate on bags of barley and emmer wheat seeds. If the barley grew, it supposedly indicated a male child. If the emmer grew, a female. If neither grew, then no pregnancy was indicated. This mainstream historical fact showcases a remarkably empirical approach, attempting to observe a biological reaction. Even if the interpretation of the grain growth for sex determination was well optimistic, it was a fascinating blend of rudimentary scientific observation and hopeful divination, a testament to their deep desire for knowledge about conception. While the grain test is well documented, the exact reasoning behind why they chose these specific grains, or if they had any underlying chemical understanding, is less clear. Was it merely a correlation observed over time, or did they believe there was some intrinsic quality in the grains that reacted to pregnant urine? The precise scientific or magical reasoning behind the grain test and other similar diagnostic methods in ancient Egypt, and whether their effectiveness was purely coincidental or had a basis in actual biochemical reactions, remains a subject of considerable scholarly debate. It's like trying to figure out if your grandmother's secret soup recipe works because of the ingredients or the lucky spoon. Beyond these more scientific tests, there were also various omens and dream interpretations. A dream of fruitful fields or flowing water might be seen as a positive sign of pregnancy, while a dream of dry land or withered plants could be interpreted as a negative omen. Your family, especially the older women, might consult with local wise women or interpreters of dreams, seeking reassurance or preparing for potential disappointment. This blend of the pragmatic and the mystical was characteristic of how ancient Egyptians approached the unknown, particularly something as profound as creation. You live in a society deeply attuned to these signs. The presence or absence of your period isn't just a bodily function. It's a communication from your body, speaking volumes about your fertility and potential for motherhood. You watch as other women nervously await the results of their own tests, or sigh with relief when their flow arrives, confirming they are not pregnant and can perhaps continue with desired family planning. Your menstrual cycle is not just yours. It is a vital indicator, constantly speaking of life's powerful, ever-present possibilities along the enduring Nile. When the familiar discomfort of your period settles in, your recourse isn't a trip to the apothecary for manufactured pills, but a deeper understanding of the natural world around you. You turn to herbal remedies, knowledge passed down through generations of women, honed by centuries of observation and practice. The fertile banks of the Nile and the surrounding desert provide a rich pharmacopoeia, a veritable garden of natural cures. You learn to identify specific plants, understand their properties, and prepare them in various ways to soothe your body. Perhaps your mother teaches you to brew a calming infusion from willow bark, known for its pain-relieving properties, much like ancient aspirin. Or maybe you're shown how to prepare a compress using fenugreek seeds, believed to ease cramps and promote flow. You might collect acacia leaves or dates, common ingredients found in medical papyri, to be ground into pastes, or mixed with honey. These preparations are not merely about alleviating pain, they are about harmonizing your body with the natural forces, restoring balance when your cycle creates discomfort. It's a well-established historical fact that ancient Egyptian medicine, like many ancient medical systems, heavily relied on botanical ingredients for a wide range of ailments. Their knowledge of plants and their medicinal uses was extensive, recorded in texts like the Ebers, papyrus, and often combined empirical observation with magical remedies. For menstrual discomfort, specific plants were chosen for their anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, or emmenagogic, flow-promoting properties, reflecting a sophisticated understanding for their time. Ancient Egyptian household remedies sometimes included seemingly unusual ingredients, such as animal fats or mineral compounds, mixed with herbs to create poultices or ingested concoctions. For instance, some recipes for menstrual complaints might call for a blend of herbs with a small amount of honey or even a type of beer. The exact effectiveness and pharmacological basis of many of these ancient herbal remedies, and whether their perceived success was due to active compounds or a placebo effect, remains a fascinating subject of ongoing pharmacological and historical study. It's hard to do a double-blind study on a 3,000-year-old recipe. After all, you find comfort in the ritual of preparing these remedies. The grinding of herbs, the mixing of pastes, the gentle heating of infusions. Each step is a small act of self-care, a connection to the ancient wisdom that flows through your female lineage. You learn to listen to your body, understanding which herbs offer the most relief for your particular discomfort. This practical knowledge empowers you, giving you agency over your own well-being. In a world without modern pharmaceuticals, you are a quiet herbalist in your own home, drawing on the earth's bounty to navigate the natural rhythms of your female body. Beyond the general application of herbal remedies, you actively seek and utilize specific methods aimed at alleviating menstrual pain. The dull ache, the cramping sensation that can sometimes accompany your flow isn't just a nuisance. It can be debilitating, impacting your ability to carry out daily tasks. Ancient Egyptian women, much like women today, understood the need for targeted relief, drawing upon their rich pharmacopoeia and practical wisdom to find comfort. One common approach involves the application of heat. You might warm a smooth, flat stone by the fire, wrap it in a piece of linen, and place it gently on your lower abdomen. The soothing warmth helps to relax the muscles and ease the cramping. Or perhaps a heated compress, made from a cloth dipped in warm herbal infusions, provides similar relief. These simple yet effective methods are born from centuries of observation. Recognizing that warmth can calm the body's internal spasms, it's a comforting ritual, a moment of gentle self-care amidst your daily responsibilities. It is a well-established historical fact that the use of heat for pain relief, particularly for abdominal and muscle discomfort, has been a universal human practice across many ancient cultures, including Egypt. The physiological understanding that heat promotes blood flow and muscle relaxation underpinned its widespread application for ailments like menstrual cramps. This straightforward, accessible method was a staple of ancient home healthcare. Some intriguing remedies found in medical papyri for menstrual pain might involve ingesting small amounts of certain minerals or even parts of insects, mixed with other ingredients. For instance, a recipe might call for a preparation involving honey, a common base due to its preserving and sweetening qualities, combined with less palatable components. The exact efficacy and the underlying pharmacological principles of some of these more unusual concoctions found in ancient Egyptian medical texts for severe menstrual pain remain complex, subjects for modern scientific and historical analysis. It's hard to tell if the benefit came from the ingredients or simply the belief in the cure. You also learn to move gently during your period. avoiding strenuous tasks if possible, recognizing that rest can be a powerful aid in managing discomfort. You might perform gentle stretches, or simply lie down for a short period when the pain is at its peak. This combination of external remedies and internal awareness allows you to navigate your monthly discomfort with a degree of grace and effectiveness. You are drawing upon the collective knowledge of generations, applying ancient wisdom to the timeless experience of the female body. The experience of menstruation, while a private bodily function, inevitably intersected with women's social roles and daily responsibilities in ancient Egyptian society. Unlike some cultures where women were entirely secluded, you understand that most Egyptian women continued their daily tasks, adapting as needed. If you are a farmer's wife, you still rise with the sun to help in the fields, perhaps taking on lighter duties during your period. If you are a weaver, your loom still awaits, though you might work at a slower pace. Your life doesn't stop. It merely adjusts to accommodate your body's rhythm. Your duties might include grinding grain, baking bread, spinning linen, fetching water from the Nile, or tending to children. For wealthier women, management of the household, overseeing servants, or engaging in trade would be typical. During menstruation, the focus might shift to tasks that require less strenuous physical exertion, or those that can be done away from sensitive ritual spaces. This adaptation is a testament to the practical and resilient nature of ancient Egyptian women, who navigated their biological realities within the demands of their daily lives. It is a widely accepted historical fact that ancient Egyptian women were active participants in the economy and daily life, holding diverse roles within both the household and public spheres. This contrasts sharply with many other ancient societies where women's roles were far more restricted. This societal integration meant that most women, regardless of their menstrual status, were expected to contribute to their families and communities, necessitating practical strategies for managing their cycles without complete withdrawal from society. Some ancient legal texts or administrative documents occasionally mention cases where women, including those of higher status, continued to engage in business transactions or legal proceedings even during periods when ritual purity might have been a concern. This suggests a pragmatic prioritization of economic and social duties over strict adherence to purity rules in non-religious contexts. The precise degree to which ritual purity rules actually impacted a woman's ability to engage in her professional or social life, beyond temple duties and whether exceptions were commonly made for practical reasons, remains a nuanced point of scholarly debate. It's hard to know how much daily flexibility there truly was. You learn the subtle art of managing your responsibilities, perhaps rising earlier to complete tasks, or delegating heavier work to other family members if your discomfort is severe. The other women around you understand. They offer quiet support, a shared glance of empathy, recognizing the universal nature of this experience. Your period, while a personal challenge, is not an excuse for idleness, but rather a periodic adjustment within the continuous flow of your productive life. You are a resilient thread in the vibrant tapestry of ancient Egyptian society, adapting your rhythm to the ongoing pulse of your world. Navigating the bustling public spaces of ancient Egypt during your period required a blend of practicality and discretion. Imagine walking through the crowded marketplace, the air thick with the scent of spices and the chatter of vendors, or perhaps attending a local festival. You weren't expected to simply vanish from public life for several days each month, but you were mindful of certain conventions and the need for hygiene. Your clothing choices, primarily made of light, breathable linen, might offer some assistance. You would likely wear your usual simple loincloth or wrap skirt, possibly layered to provide extra absorbency. The loose-fitting nature of Egyptian garments meant they could accommodate the absorbent linen materials discreetly, minimizing any outward signs. Your movements might become slightly more measured, your posture a little more careful, all to ensure comfort and prevent any visible mishaps. It's a quiet dance of self-awareness in a world that, while generally pragmatic about bodily functions, still valued decorum. It is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptian society was generally open about the body and its functions, a stark contrast to some later cultures that imposed more rigid restrictions on women during menstruation. While purity rules existed for sacred spaces, daily public life continued. Women actively participated in marketplaces, religious festivals, and social gatherings, suggesting that practical management of menstruation allowed them to remain engaged. In their communities, some surviving tomb paintings occasionally depict women in various daily activities, from harvesting crops to attending banquets, without any overt visual cues related to menstruation, suggesting that it was simply a managed aspect of their routine. However, the true extent to which societal expectations or individual comfort might have subtly altered a woman's public engagement during her period, beyond purely religious contexts, is a nuanced area for scholarly interpretation. It's tough to deduce personal choices from broad artistic depictions. You learn to manage your supplies discreetly. Perhaps you carry a small woven basket with fresh linen, or use a specific spot in your home as a private changing area. When moving through crowded areas, you might instinctively position yourself in ways that offer a little more privacy. The other women around you, your friends and neighbors, understand. There's an unspoken empathy, a shared understanding of the bodily rhythms that unite all women. Your period, while a personal reality, doesn't isolate you from your community. Instead, it shapes the subtle ways you move through it, a quiet testament to the enduring female experience in the heart of ancient Egypt. For women in the priestly class, the rules surrounding menstruation took on an even greater significance, often involving specific exemptions and protocols due to their direct involvement in temple rituals and sacred offerings. If you were a priestess serving a deity like Hathor or Isis, your monthly cycle would require careful navigation to ensure ritual purity for your duties. This wasn't about moral failing, but about maintaining the sanctity of the divine presence and the efficacy of the rituals you performed during your period. You would likely be temporarily excluded from direct participation in certain temple ceremonies or from entering the most sacred inner sanctuaries. The menstrual blood, while a sign of life, was considered potent and could ritually contaminate the pure space required for direct interaction with the gods. Instead, you might take on administrative tasks, oversee other temple staff, or engage in preparation rituals that did not require your presence in the innermost sanctuary. Your duties shifted, but your role within the temple structure remained vital. It is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptian religious practices placed immense importance on ritual purity, particularly for priests and priestesses who served the gods. They underwent rigorous cleansing rituals, adhered to dietary restrictions, and maintained strict bodily purity to ensure they were fit to approach the divine. Menstruation, as a natural bodily emission, necessitated specific temporary adjustments to their duties to uphold these stringent purity standards for the temple. Some temple inscriptions and papyri sometimes hint at specific purification chambers, or separate quarters within larger temple complexes, that might have been used by priestesses during their menstrual cycles. These spaces would allow them to maintain a degree of ritual separation while still remaining within the temple precinct and performing other non-sacred duties. The exact extent to which all priestesses across every temple and cult adhered to precisely the same purification protocols, and whether there was any flexibility based on the specific deity served, remains a nuanced point of scholarly discussion due to the diverse nature of religious practices. It's a bit like trying to find uniform rules across all modern religious denominations. You observe the meticulous care with which senior priestesses adhere to these rules, understanding that it's a mark of their devotion and respect for the gods. There's a quiet dignity in their temporary withdrawal, a recognition of the powerful forces at play. When your period ends, specific purification rites would be performed, involving cleansing with sacred water and perhaps fumigation with incense, to restore your full ritual purity before you could resume your most sacred duties. This intricate dance between bodily rhythms and divine service highlights the deeply interwoven nature of daily life and religious belief in ancient Egypt, even for those dedicated to the gods. For women in the royal family, the experience of menstruation, while biologically the same, was undoubtedly governed by even more elaborate protocols and unique challenges due to their exalted status. If you were a queen, a royal consort, or a princess, your monthly cycle would involve not just personal hygiene, but also implications for court rituals, dynastic continuity, and the very image of the divine pharaoh. Discretion and meticulous management were paramount, amplified by the constant scrutiny of palace life. Imagine being in the royal palace, surrounded by exquisite luxury, yet under constant observation. Your personal attendants, a retinue of highly trained female servants, and perhaps even a specialized royal physician, would manage every detail of your menstrual care. The finest and softest linens, perhaps even specially woven for the royal household, would be provided in abundance. Your bathing rituals would be more elaborate, involving perfumed oils and milk baths, ensuring not just cleanliness, but also a regal aura. The very idea of any public display of discomfort or any ritual impropriety would be unthinkable for someone of your standing. It is a core historical fact that the pharaoh and his immediate family were considered divine or semi-divine, and their well-being and ritual purity were directly linked to the prosperity and stability of Egypt. This meant that the bodily functions of royal women, particularly those related to fertility and potential succession, would be managed with extreme care and often surrounded by specific rituals or protocols to maintain their sacred status and ensure the continuity of the royal line. While direct accounts of royal women's specific menstrual practices are rare due to the privacy surrounding such intimate details, certain decorative elements in royal tombs or temple reliefs sometimes subtly allude to symbols of fertility and regeneration. That would be particularly relevant to a queen. Perhaps a motif of the jed pillar, symbolizing stability alongside a jed knot, linked to Isis and protective magic, would subtly emphasize the queen's role in ensuring dynastic continuity. The precise nature and strictness of royal menstrual protocols and how much they differed from common practices beyond increased luxury and discretion remains a fascinating area for scholarly speculation. Given the lack of explicit textual descriptions detailing these private aspects of royal life, it's like trying to understand a secret society from scattered clues. The pressure on a royal woman during her fertile years was immense, driven by the expectation to produce heirs, especially a male successor to the throne. Your menstrual cycle, therefore, carried not just personal significance, but also immense political weight. Its regularity would be noted, and any disruption would likely lead to immediate attention from physicians and perhaps even special prayers or rituals. The palace, a world of power and intricate ceremony, ensured that even the most natural of female processes was woven into the grand tapestry of royal life, managed with unparalleled care and discretion. Your understanding of the female body's cycles isn't limited to menstruation. It extends seamlessly into the profound experiences of childbirth and postpartum. These natural transitions are viewed as a continuous journey, each phase intrinsically linked to the grand cycle of life, death, and rebirth so central to Egyptian belief. The wisdom you've gathered about your monthly flow, about cleansing and care, forms a foundation for how you approach the even more intense demands of bringing new life into the world. When a woman becomes pregnant, the cessation of her period is the first joyous sign marking the shift from potential fertility to active creation. During pregnancy, ancient Egyptian women relied on their knowledge of herbs for comfort and to ensure a healthy gestation. As childbirth approaches, the entire community, particularly the older women and midwives, rallies around the expectant mother. Delivery often takes place in a squatting or kneeling position, sometimes with the aid of birthing bricks or stools, reflecting a practical approach to facilitating the process. The focus is on natural methods, guided by experienced hands. It is a well-established historical fact that ancient Egyptian medicine had a sophisticated understanding of obstetrics and gynecology for its time, as evidenced by medical papyri containing instructions for managing pregnancy, facilitating childbirth, and caring for mother and child postpartum. Midwives played a crucial role, drawing upon centuries of practical experience and traditional knowledge to assist women during labor. This emphasis on support and practical methods underscores the value placed on successful births. Ancient Egyptian ritual practices sometimes involved specific spells or amulets placed in the birthing chamber, invoking deities like Torit or Base to protect the mother and newborn. You might see images of these protective deities painted on walls or fashioned into small figures near the birthing area, a testament to the blend of practical aid and spiritual safeguarding. The question of how much ancient Egyptian birthing practices relied on empirical knowledge versus how much they incorporated magical or religious rituals for perceived protection remains a fascinating area for scholarly investigation. It's hard to untangle science from belief in such an ancient context. After childbirth, the postpartum period is also managed with care. The body is seen as undergoing another significant transition, returning to its regular rhythms. You would be encouraged to rest, consume nourishing foods, and continue with cleansing rituals. The return of menstruation after breastfeeding, sometimes after many months, signals the body's readiness for another potential pregnancy, completing the grand cycle. This continuous understanding of the female body's journey from monthly flow to birth and beyond highlights the deep respect for women's procreative power woven into the very fabric of ancient Egyptian life. As you age, the consistent rhythm of your monthly flow begins to change, signaling a new phase in your life, menopause. This transition, much like your first menstruation, is understood as a natural, inevitable part of the female journey, albeit one that shifts your role within the cycle of reproduction. The hot flashes, the changes in your body's temperature, the increasing irregularity of your period until it finally ceases. These are recognized signs that your fertile years are drawing to a close. This phase is not viewed with shame or a sense of loss of value, as might be the case in some other cultures or later historical periods. Instead, it is seen as a natural progression, a freeing of the body from the demands of childbearing. With the cessation of menstruation, the daily management of absorbent materials and the concerns about ritual purity related to blood also diminish. You gain a different kind of freedom, a release from the biological imperative of reproduction, allowing you to focus on other aspects of life. It is a generally accepted historical fact that in societies like ancient Egypt, where wisdom and experience were highly valued, older women often gained increased social standing and influence. With the completion of their childbearing years, their roles might shift to that of revered elder, grandmother, or keeper of traditional knowledge, particularly in matters of health and family. Menopause, therefore, marked a transition into a phase of life that could bring new forms of respect and authority. Some informal historical anecdotes or folk wisdom from ancient cultures suggest specific dietary changes or herbal remedies were sometimes employed to ease the transition through menopause, though these were likely focused on managing symptoms rather than altering the natural process. Perhaps your mother or a village elder would recommend particular cooling foods or gentle infusions to soothe your body during hot flashes. The exact societal perceptions of postmenopausal women, and whether they were universally viewed with increased reverence or if their status was also influenced by factors like family wealth or prior achievements, remains a complex point of scholarly inquiry. It's hard to get a full picture of individual experiences from broad historical trends. You might find yourself dedicating more time to teaching younger generations, sharing your vast accumulated knowledge of household management, child rearing, and the traditional remedies you've mastered. Your hands, though perhaps more gnarled with age, are still capable, perhaps now spinning finer linen or weaving more intricate patterns. The wisdom etched on your face, the stories held in your eyes, become your new form of wealth, valued by your family and community. Menopause, far from being an ending, is a transition into a respected role, a different kind of life, where your experience becomes your most valuable contribution to the enduring life along the Nile. Understanding the natural rhythms of the female body, including menstruation and fertility, also led ancient Egyptians to explore methods of family planning. While not identical to modern contraception, there were efforts to space births or avoid pregnancy when desired, drawing upon their knowledge of plants and bodily functions. This wasn't about avoiding children altogether, which was highly valued, but about managing family size or timing pregnancies, perhaps for health reasons or economic stability. You might learn of various concoctions or pessaries designed to prevent conception. One method described in the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus, a mainstream historical fact, involves a vaginal suppository made from crocodile dung, honey, and natron. The thinking was that the dung might create an acidic barrier, while the honey and natron could act as spermicides, or simply create a physical obstruction. While this sounds rather unappealing to modern ears, it demonstrates a pragmatic attempt to control fertility using readily available, if unconventional, materials. It's an early, albeit unusual, form of chemical and physical barrier method. The specific reasoning behind the choice of crocodile dung, and whether it was believed to have a symbolic rather than purely chemical effect, is an intriguing aspect of ancient Egyptian folk medicine. Was it the animal's perceived power, or some actual property of the dung that made it suitable for this purpose. The precise efficacy of these ancient birth control methods, and whether their success was due to actual spermicidal properties, physical barriers, or simply a high placebo effect compounded by infrequent sexual activity, remains a subject of ongoing scientific and historical debate. It's a messy topic, literally and figuratively. Other less intrusive methods might have involved oral concoctions from specific herbs, or even ritual practices believed to ward off pregnancy. You might hear women speaking of chewing certain leaves, or drinking particular infusions after intercourse, hoping to prevent conception. These methods were part of a broader attempt to exert some control over their reproductive lives, allowing women and families to make choices about their future. This reflects a society that, while valuing large families, also understood the practical benefits of spacing births. You realize that family planning, even in its most rudimentary forms, was a significant aspect of ancient Egyptian women's lives. It was another way they managed their bodies and their futures, integrating natural knowledge with their desire to build and sustain families. The efforts to control fertility, even with crocodile dung, highlight a sophisticated societal understanding of women's reproductive cycles and a pragmatic approach to life's most intimate aspects, ensuring balance in their world along the enduring Nile. Managing your monthly flow also meant making subtle but crucial adjustments to your daily wear. In ancient Egypt, clothing was primarily made from linen, a lightweight, breathable fabric perfectly suited to the hot climate. Women typically wore simple, draped garments like long, sheath-like dresses or wrap skirts, often with a loincloth or short undergarment beneath. These practical choices also lent themselves well to accommodating menstrual needs. You would typically secure your absorbent linen pads within your loincloth or by wrapping them strategically around your lower body. The loose fit of outer garments meant that any bulk from the absorbent material would be discreetly hidden, maintaining your modesty and comfort. Unlike modern clothing designed with specific features, ancient Egyptian garments relied on layering and the inherent flexibility of the fabric to adapt to bodily changes. This system allowed for movement and activity without drawing undue attention. It is a core historical fact that linen was the dominant textile in ancient Egypt due to the abundance of flax and its suitability for the climate. Its breathability and ease of washing made it ideal for daily wear and personal hygiene. The simple construction of Egyptian clothing, unlike the more tailored garments of some other ancient cultures, provided a practical foundation for women to manage their menstrual cycles with relative ease and discretion. Some archaeological discoveries have hinted at specialized linen pieces, perhaps slightly thicker or with different weaves, that might have been specifically intended for menstrual use, though definitive identification is challenging. Imagine a small, rectangular piece of finely woven, perhaps slightly felted, linen, carefully tucked away in a woman's basket. The precise methods of securing these absorbent materials, and whether there were specific garment styles or fasteners used uniquely for menstruation that have not survived the archaeological record, remains a subject of ongoing scholarly speculation due to the perishable nature of textiles. It's hard to reconstruct every detail of ancient undergarments. You learn that discretion is key. When changing, you would find a private corner of your home or a secluded spot near a water source. The other women in your family would understand, offering quiet support or simply allowing you your privacy. There was no need for elaborate public displays or special menstrual clothing. Your regular attire, designed for comfort and practicality, seamlessly adapted to the natural rhythms of your body, allowing you to continue your life with minimal disruption. A testament to the timeless ingenuity of women managing their bodies. Central to the ancient Egyptian approach to hygiene, especially during menstruation, were bathing and cleansing rituals. Water, particularly from the Nile, was considered sacred and purifying, an essential element not just for daily cleanliness, but for ritual purity. You learned that during your period, a meticulous emphasis was placed on washing, ensuring both physical comfort and adherence to the societal understanding of ritual cleanliness. Your daily routine would involve regular bathing, perhaps in a designated area of your home, using basins of water brought from the river or a well. For menstrual cleansing, this bathing would be even more thorough, focusing on the areas of flow. You might use natron, a natural salt, to aid in the cleansing process, which was commonly used for purification and even mummification due to its antiseptic properties. The sensation of cool water against your skin, especially in the heat, is refreshing, washing away not just physical traces, but also any perceived ritual impurity. It is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptians were exceptionally fond of bathing and personal cleanliness. Daily washing was a widespread practice across all social classes, and public bathhouses also existed. For religious personnel and royalty, purification rituals involving extensive washing were mandatory before entering sacred spaces. This pervasive cultural emphasis on cleanliness naturally extended to managing menstruation, making regular and thorough bathing a fundamental part of women's personal care routines. Some informal historical accounts suggest that women, particularly those in more affluent households, might have used specific types of perfumed oils or scented flower petals in their bathing water during menstruation, not just for fragrance, but possibly for their perceived cleansing or soothing properties. Imagine the delicate scent of lotus or lily lingering on your skin after a refreshing wash, adding a touch of luxury to a necessary ritual. The precise distinctions between everyday bathing practices and specific purification rituals for menstruation, and whether specific herbs or oils were consistently used across different social strata for this purpose, remain nuanced points of scholarly discussion due to the limited explicit records. It's hard to know every ancient beauty secret. These cleansing rituals are more than just about physical cleanliness. They are about renewal, about maintaining harmony with the natural and spiritual world. You emerge from your wash feeling refreshed, clean, and recentered. The act of bathing becomes a quiet, personal ritual, a moment of connection with the life-giving waters of the Nile and the ancient traditions passed down through generations. Through these practices, you demonstrate respect for your body, for your community, and for the unseen forces that govern life along the timeless river. Beyond the practical and hygienic cleansing, your menstrual cycle also intertwines with deeper spiritual cleansing practices. These aren't necessarily elaborate public ceremonies, but often quiet, personal rituals performed to ensure your harmony with the divine forces and to re-establish a state of complete ritual purity, especially if you had limited your interaction with sacred objects or spaces during your flow. These practices reflect the holistic ancient Egyptian worldview, where the physical and spiritual were never truly separate. You might perform a small purification rite in your home, perhaps before re-entering the family shrine or handling sacred amulets. This could involve sprinkling yourself with water consecrated through a simple prayer, or passing your hands through the smoke of burning incense, believed to ward off any lingering ritual impurity. The intent is to symbolically cleanse and prepare yourself acknowledging the temporary shift in your spiritual state during menstruation, and then consciously returning to full communion with the divine. It's a personal dialogue with the gods, a reaffirmation of your place in the cosmic order. It is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptian religious practice emphasized the importance of ritual purity before approaching the divine, not just for priests but for lay people engaging in personal worship. Various forms of cleansing, including washing and fumigation, were common elements of these purification rituals. While strictness varied depending on the sacredness of the space or object, the concept of spiritual cleansing after any bodily emission was a pervasive belief. Some informal historical anecdotes or instructions in religious texts sometimes allude to specific types of wood or resins, like frankincense or myrrh, that were considered particularly effective for spiritual purification when burned as incense. Perhaps you would light a small stick of fragrant wood, watching the smoke curl upwards, carrying away any lingering uncleanliness. The precise extent to which individual women regularly performed these private spiritual cleansing rituals, and whether certain spells or prayers accompanied them consistently across different social strata, remains a nuanced point of scholarly discussion due to the personal and often unrecorded nature of such practices. It's like trying to understand someone's private prayer life from 1,000 years ago. You feel a quiet sense of renewal after these practices. It's not about shame, but about respect for the boundaries between the mundane and the sacred. You are acknowledging the power of your body's processes, while also honoring the power of the gods. These spiritual cleansing rituals provide a sense of completion, marking the end of one phase of your cycle and the readiness to fully engage once more with all aspects of your life, both temporal and divine. You are realigning yourself, a quiet testament to the profound spiritual connection that permeated every aspect of ancient Egyptian life. In ancient Egypt, when facing health concerns, including those related to your menstrual cycle or fertility, you often turned not just to practical remedies but also to the divine. Offerings and prayers were a fundamental part of seeking well-being, a direct communication with the gods believed to influence health, fertility, and protection. This wasn't a sign of desperation, but a confident assertion of your faith and your understanding that the gods played an active role in daily life. You might visit a local temple or even a small household shrine to present your offerings. These could be simple: a small cake of bread, a handful of fresh fruit, a cup of beer, or a carefully crafted votive figurine. You might offer a small, crude clay figure of a woman, perhaps with prominent breasts or a swollen belly, symbolizing a prayer for fertility or an easy menstruation. As you present it, you would whisper your prayers to deities associated with women's health and childbirth, such as Taurit, the benevolent hippopotamus goddess, or Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, and motherhood. Your words would be earnest, filled with hope for a healthy cycle, relief from pain, or the blessing of conception. It is a core historical fact that votive offerings and prayers were ubiquitous in ancient Egyptian religious practice. Individuals from all social classes made offerings at temples and household shrines to express gratitude, seek divine intervention for specific problems, or ensure well-being. For women, a significant portion of these prayers and offerings would naturally focus on reproductive health, given its centrality to their lives and societal expectations. Some specific types of offerings found in archaeological contexts, like small, stylized representations of uteri or breasts, are thought to be direct appeals for reproductive health or to give thanks for a successful pregnancy. Imagine carefully molding a small clay uterus with your own hands, infusing it with your hopes and fears before presenting it. The precise intentions behind some of these highly specialized votive offerings, and whether they represented a direct petition for a specific outcome or a broader plea for overall reproductive health, remains a fascinating area for scholarly interpretation. It's a silent language across millennia. You find comfort in these acts of devotion. The ritual of preparing and presenting your offering, the quiet murmur of your prayers, connects you to something larger than yourself. It's a reaffirmation of your place in a world governed by divine will, and a hopeful plea for the benevolent intervention of the gods. As the sun sets over the Nile, casting long shadows across your humble offering, you feel a quiet assurance that you have done your part, entrusted your hopes to the ancient powers that watch over the land. In the rhythms of ancient Egyptian life, the shared experiences of women fostered strong community support systems. You weren't alone in navigating the challenges and blessings of your monthly cycle, pregnancy, or childbirth. From your first menstruation to the onset of menopause, you were part of a network of female relatives, neighbors, and friends who understood, advised, and assisted each other. This unspoken bond was a vital thread in the social fabric, offering practical help and emotional solace. Imagine your grandmother sharing ancient remedies for cramps, or an aunt offering to take on a heavier chore when your flow was particularly difficult. If you were a new mother, other women would bring you nourishing food and help care for your baby, allowing you time to recover. This communal support extended beyond immediate family, reaching out to the broader female community. There was a collective wisdom passed down orally that ensured every woman had access to the knowledge and practical assistance she needed to manage her bodily processes with dignity and efficacy. It is a pervasive historical fact that in many ancient societies, particularly those with strong kinship structures and communal living, women relied heavily on each other for support in matters of health, childbirth, and daily life. Formal medical systems often had limitations, making informal networks of female knowledge and practical assistance crucial for managing the cyclical nature of women's bodies. This sisterhood of support was often the primary healthcare system. For the majority of women, some informal accounts from later periods, and even ethnographic studies of traditional communities, suggest that women often had specific gathering places or times where they would share information and support related to their cycles, perhaps during communal washing by the Nile or while grinding grain together. This created a space for open discussion and mutual aid. The precise nature and formality of these community support networks, and whether they were organized informally or had more structured elements, remains an area of active scholarly investigation. Given the challenges of documenting such intimate social dynamics from ancient times, it's like trying to diagram every whispered conversation. You find comfort and strength in this unspoken solidarity. The shared smiles, the knowing glances, the immediate willingness to lend a hand, they all reinforce that your experiences are universal, understood, and supported. Your period, while a personal reality, becomes a point of connection, binding you to the generations of women who came before you and those who live alongside you. This enduring network of female support is as vital and reliable as the annual flooding of the Nile, ensuring that no woman faces her bodily journey alone in the ancient land. The intimate knowledge surrounding menstruation and female cycles wasn't kept secret from the young. It was carefully transmitted, ensuring that children's understanding was shaped by the women around them from an early age. You would observe your mother, aunts, and older sisters, seeing their discreet practices and understanding even before your own body began its changes. This open, yet private, education ensured that when your first period arrived, it was not a shock, but a natural, anticipated milestone. You might witness your mother washing her linen, or see an older sister subtly adjusting her garments. You'd hear hushed conversations about remedies for cramps or the joy of a missed period signaling a new life. These observations, coupled with gentle explanations from older female relatives, built a foundation of understanding. There was no sense of shame attached to these bodily processes. Instead, they were presented as natural functions, part of being a woman and intrinsically linked to the continuation of the family and the community. This informal, observational learning was vital in a society where formal education for girls was limited. It is a core historical fact that knowledge in ancient Egyptian society was primarily transmitted orally and through practical apprenticeship within the family unit. For girls, this meant learning essential life skills, including health and hygiene practices, directly from their mothers and other female elders. This ensured the continuity of traditional wisdom related to female bodily functions across generations. The family served as the primary institution for education in these intimate matters. Some archaeological findings, like children's toys depicting female figures or small, simplified versions of domestic tools, might hint at how girls were socialized into their future roles, including the domestic aspects that would involve managing their cycles. Perhaps a doll dressed in simple linen wraps was used by a mother to explain bodily changes to her daughter. The precise age at which these intimate topics were introduced to young girls, and how explicit these discussions were within various social classes, remains a nuanced point of scholarly discussion due to the private nature of such family education. We can infer the broad strokes, but the precise details are elusive. You learn that your body is a vessel for life, a source of power and creation, and that its cycles are to be respected, not feared. The older women teach you that periods are a sign of health, a confirmation of your potential. They demystify the process, replacing any potential anxiety with practical knowledge and a quiet acceptance. This continuous stream of information, flowing from generation to generation, ensures that every girl in ancient Egypt is prepared for the natural rhythms of her female body, entering womanhood with understanding and the collective wisdom of her ancestors along the enduring Nile. As you live your life along the Nile, you come to realize a fascinating, yet sometimes puzzling, aspect of how your society chose to represent, or rather, not represent, certain intimate realities. When you look at the vibrant tomb paintings, the intricate temple reliefs, or the beautifully carved statues, you notice the near absence of direct artistic depictions of menstruation. While there are countless images of women pregnant, giving birth, breastfeeding, or engaging in various daily activities, the monthly flow itself remains largely unseen, unrepresented in the public art. This isn't necessarily a sign of shame or taboo in the modern sense. Instead, it seems to reflect a cultural preference for depicting ideal states, the completed cycles of life, and the most auspicious moments. Art was often prescriptive, showing what should be rather than every mundane or temporary bodily function. The focus was on fertility, rebirth, and eternal life, making the transient aspect of menstruation less likely to be a central subject for monumental art. It was a private reality, not a public spectacle to be immortalized on temple walls. It is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptian art, particularly official and religious art, tended to be highly symbolic and conceptual, focusing on idealized forms, religious narratives, and the depiction of an ordered cosmos. Private and intimate bodily functions were rarely depicted explicitly unless directly tied to the highly valued concepts of fertility, birth, or the afterlife. This artistic convention largely explains the visual silence surrounding menstruation. Some very rare or fragmented Astraca pottery sherds used for sketches or notes, or even informal graffiti, might contain crude, private doodles that vaguely allude to bodily functions, though specific identification related to menstruation is highly speculative and subject to interpretation. Imagine, perhaps, finding a tiny, almost hidden sketch in a worker's village, a fleeting glimpse into a less formalized artistic expression. The precise reasons for this artistic reticence, and whether it stemmed from a deliberate policy of non-representation or simply a cultural consensus that such intimate processes were unsuitable for monumental art, remains a subject of considerable scholarly debate among Egyptologists and art historians. It's hard to interpret the absence of evidence, so, while the reality of your period is an undeniable part of your life, connecting you to every woman, past and present, its visual presence in the grand artistic narrative of ancient Egypt is largely absent. This quiet omission speaks volumes about how your society compartmentalized the private and the public, the ideal and the real. You understand that some truths are lived, experienced, and passed down in whispers among women, rather than carved in stone for eternity. Your story, in its daily rhythms, is part of a silent, enduring history, even if it doesn't appear on a temple wall. Even thousands of years after the last pharaoh ruled, you might notice modern echoes of ancient Egyptian practices and beliefs surrounding menstruation. While the world has transformed dramatically, some fundamental human responses to bodily cycles and the ways societies conceptualize them show surprising continuity. It's like finding a familiar melody in a completely new song, a subtle resonance across the vast chasm of time. Consider the ongoing, though often quiet, discussions in various cultures about the cleanliness or impurity of menstrual blood, or the desire for discretion when managing periods. While perhaps not rooted in ancient Egyptian religious concepts of ritual purity, the underlying human inclination to manage bodily functions privately and with a sense of order persists. Even the search for natural remedies for discomfort, or the sharing of wisdom among women, are enduring traditions that echo the practices you've seen along the Nile. It's a reminder that some aspects of the female experience are truly timeless. It is a core historical fact that many traditional societies worldwide, even those without direct historical links to ancient Egypt, developed similar pragmatic approaches to menstrual hygiene, using natural absorbent materials and emphasizing this convergence suggests that basic human needs and available resources often lead to similar solutions across diverse cultures and time periods, highlighting a shared human experience of the female body. The methods may differ, but the fundamental challenge and solutions often remain consistent. In some contemporary indigenous communities, there are still traditional practices involving temporary separation or specific rituals for menstruating women, often framed not as punishment but as a recognition of a woman's heightened spiritual power or vulnerability during her cycle. This conceptualization, far from being negative, often confers a unique status. How much of this similarity across cultures is due to independent invention driven by shared biological realities versus distant, unprovable historical diffusion? of ideas remains a fascinating point of scholarly discussion in anthropology and history. It's tough to trace every cultural whisper across continents and millennia. You might find yourself reflecting on the universality of the female experience, the challenges of discomfort, the need for hygiene, the profound connection to fertility, and the quiet strength found in female solidarity. These are threads that bind you, an ancient Egyptian woman, to women across all ages and cultures. The world around you may be filled with strange, modern inventions and unfamiliar customs, but the fundamental rhythms of your body, and the ways women have historically managed them, connect you to a lineage that stretches far beyond the fertile banks of the Nile, right into the present day. Your ancient wisdom, in its essence, continues to resonate. Beneath the practicalities, the rituals, and the discreet management of menstruation, there was an overarching respect for the female body and its profound reproductive capabilities in ancient Egypt. This wasn't a society that inherently shamed women for their natural functions. Instead, the ability to create life, to be a vessel for new generations, was viewed with deep reverence, often imbued with divine significance. Your menstrual cycle, therefore, was a tangible manifestation of this powerful, sacred capacity. You understand that the female body was inherently seen as a source of life and renewal. The very annual flooding of the Nile, which brought forth fertility to the land, was often paralleled with the life-giving essence of the female. Goddesses like Isis, Hathor, and Mut, powerful and revered deities, embodied aspects of fertility, motherhood, and creation, solidifying the divine connection to female reproductive power. Your monthly flow, by confirming your fertility, placed you directly within this esteemed cosmic order. It is a core historical fact that ancient Egyptian society held a generally positive and pragmatic view of the female body and sexuality, particularly in comparison to some other ancient Near Eastern cultures. Their medical texts discussed gynecological issues openly, and their religious beliefs celebrated goddesses associated with fertility and childbirth. This cultural context fostered an environment where the biological processes of women were largely seen as natural and integral to life, rather than inherently impure or shameful. Some academic interpretations of ancient Egyptian love poetry or personal letters suggest a robust appreciation for female beauty and the life-giving aspects of women's bodies, often expressed without the moralistic judgments found in other cultures. Perhaps you'd hear a husband praise his wife's vitality, implicitly acknowledging her fertile cycles as a sign of her life force. The degree to which this public and religious reverence for fertility translated into universal, individual respect for every woman's menstrual experience across all social strata remains a nuanced point of scholarly discussion. It's difficult to gauge the lived, personal feelings behind broad cultural ideals. You feel this underlying respect in the way your cycle is managed, not hidden in shame, but accommodated with practical solutions and quiet understanding. There are no harsh condemnations, no rigid ostracization that denies your humanity. Instead, you are part of a continuous, vital process, a link in the chain of life that extends from the dawn of creation to the endless horizon. Your body, in its natural rhythm, is a testament to the enduring power and sacredness of female existence along the life-giving Nile. As the last rays of the Egyptian sun begin to paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, our journey into the ancient world draws to a close. You, as an ancient Egyptian woman, have navigated the intimate realities of your menstrual cycle, not with modern conveniences, but with a remarkable blend of practicality, spiritual understanding, and community support. Your story, though personal and largely unwritten in grand histories, stands as a testament to the enduring human spirit and the timeless experiences of the female body. This is the enduring legacy of the Nile, a continuous flow of life, wisdom, and adaptation. Your experience underscores that while the tools and technologies change, the fundamental biological rhythms of women remain constant. The ancient Egyptians, through their observations and beliefs, developed a system that allowed women to manage their bodies with dignity, integrating these natural processes into the fabric of daily life rather than treating them as burdens to be hidden. It's a powerful reminder that ingenuity, empathy, and respect are timeless qualities in facing universal human experiences. It is a profound historical reflection that the pragmatic and relatively positive approach to women's health and bodily functions in ancient Egypt offers valuable insights for understanding the diversity of human cultural responses to biological realities. Their emphasis on cleanliness, the natural connection to fertility, and the support networks among women all speak to a society that largely integrated rather than alienated the female experience. This holistic view contrasts sharply with many later cultures. The specific nuances of daily life, such as the exact feel of sun-dried linen or the precise taste of an herbal remedy, are forever lost to us, leaving gaps that invite scholarly speculation. However, the broad strokes of adaptation, resilience, and the quiet strength of women in managing their bodies endure, a silent testament to a shared human journey. It's a continuous thread of wisdom woven through generations, connecting you in your modern comfort to the women who lived and breathed along the Nile thousands of years ago. So, as the ancient sands settle and the echoes of the temple drums fade, you can carry with you a quiet appreciation for the ingenuity of these ancient women. Their wisdom, born of necessity and observation, allowed them to live full lives, contributing to their families and society while embracing the natural cycles of their bodies. The Nile flows on, timeless and eternal, just as the story of women's resilience continues, a testament to the powerful, life-giving force that connects all of humanity across all ages. Now, as the long journey through the ancient sands of Egypt concludes, allow your mind to gently detach from the bustling marketplaces and the quiet riverbanks. Feel the warmth of the ancient sun fade, slowly, softly, like a departing dream. You've walked with women who understood their bodies in ways both different and surprisingly familiar, witnessing their strength and their quiet wisdom. But those echoes belong to the past, to a time and a place far removed from the comfort of your own world. Let the images fade, the sounds cease, and the stories of a bygone era dissolve into the peaceful stillness of your room. Breathe deeply, feel the softness of your blankets, and remember that safety and peace are here, now. Drift into quiet slumber, knowing that the curtains have closed on tonight's tale, leaving only the calm embrace of the night. Sweet dreams.